Some of you might come here expecting to see Matt Gillis, the strapping gentleman Matt Gillis from Canada, but because of some urgent matters that held him back in the headquarters in Baltimore, so I'm interviewing Gonzad on behalf of Matt and then Millennial Media. So Gonzad, it's very honored to have you here today. Gonzad is a very experienced veteran in the gaming industry. He has been with Gameloft for 12 years, right?
Yep.
Yeah, since 1999. And during this whole time, he has seen through the fragmented world of Java and Brew, and the whole industry went through different ecosystem changes. And then Gonzad will have a lot of stories to tell, and he's going to tell us about the success Gameloft have seen, and then the challenges they have faced, and then also, share with us his views on certain trends in the mobile gaming space. So, first question, Gonzad, what brought you to Southeast Asia?
Southeast Asia is a very important area for Gameloft. It's an area where there is a lot of innovation, both on the on the gaming side, and on the, also on the hardware side. Most of our OEM customers and ODM customers are in the area, so it's a very strategic region, and it's a very also fragmented region with different territories. China being very different from Japan, being very different from Korea. So it's an area where we need to spend more time and energy to understand better the markets.
Yep. So then how do you see Southeast Asia versus the rest of the world, where you worked at, like France, Europe, and then United States?
Yeah. So as I was saying, I think Southeast Asia is much diverse maybe than Europe and the US can be. I think the US and Europe are very homogeneous. If you look at the US, you used to have 4 or 5 big carriers, and now you have 4 or 5 big platform owners like Amazon, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Facebook. So it's pretty straightforward. I would say. I would not say it's an easy market, but it's clear, it's organized, it's structured. Southeast Asia is very diverse. The Japanese market is very different from the Chinese markets. The players today are different. So of course, Japanese players want to go to China, and China players want to go to Korea. But you need to understand each market and to adapt your strategy to each market. So that's what makes Southeast Asia a very diverse continent, because for me it's 5 different markets, whereas the US is only 1. And so it requires more energy and more brain juice to understand.
Then since now you're here in Southeast Asia, and my understanding is that you're going to move to Southeast Asia pretty soon. So what is that you were trying to achieve here?
So today Southeast Asia is under 20% of our business. So we are strong in markets like Vietnam, Indonesia. We are pretty strong in Japan. We are pretty strong also in Korea. But I want to shift into second gear in those markets. I think it's a market where there are lots of opportunities, and we are only taking a small share of that. So I want to accelerate.
Right. Yeah. And then you physically being here will be able for you to get more in touch with the countries.
Yeah. So of course we have very strong teams already in those different markets. Yeah. But what I see is that our headquarters being in Europe, naturally we always have a Western world mindset, and unless you physically move and spend your time on the market to understand it and to dive into the market, it's hard to make the right choices and to spend the right amount of time. So that's the goal here.
So this is kind of like why there are a lot of companies coming out. They want to tap into the Asian market.
Exactly.
They set up headquarters here.
Yeah.
So that the market is not out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay. Great. So, let's dive into this. There are a lot of questions on the developers, a lot of game developers here. What questions that are on their minds? I think there are 2 big topics. One is the revenue model, and then the other is how do we get user acquisition? So we're gonna spend some time with Gonzad deep diving into these 2 areas. So first, we've seen a big freemium market change. Different ecosystem like revenue model, and then now freemium seems to be something that's more prevalent, and then a lot of developers are actually changing their business model or their revenue model to go into freemium. So, what stands out as the biggest change, like other than freemium? Is there any other change that you've seen throughout your career in this industry?
So I think freemium and casual are the two biggest changes that we've seen in the last 2 years. So I would say freemium has been the big, it's been a shock, I would say, for us at Gameloft, because we are originally a premium publisher. I mean, we've been living on AAA, $4.99, $6.99 titles, more targeted to maybe more innovators and gamers. So these double change from premium hardcore, premium gamer to freemium casual, and which has been driven by first the growth of the market, which is good news, is that smartphones and tablets are reaching millions of new users, so not only innovators, but also mass market. So these are really mass market devices, so you need to create mass market games to appeal to this audience. And second, the freemium model. We had to make a major shift at Gameloft we were, I would say, a strong leader in the App Store ecosystem let's say in 2010, and we didn't. When you are a leader, it's always harder to change and say, okay, I'm doing fine. My business is good, and I'm going to change my whole organization and game design, and we had to change the whole company, to reinvent the whole company to tackle freemium, because it means different game designs, it means different gameplays if you want to go to casual, it means different internal organization, because instead of doing a fire and forget launch on premium, you are doing a big hype before, a big buzz before the launch, and then you launch the title, and then you play a bit with the prices, you do some 99 cents promo every 2 months, and you optimize the life cycle of the product. When you go to free-to-play, you need to update the game every month, so you need to have the teams to do that, you need to market those updates, you need to pitch them to the different platform owners. So we had to reinvent the whole company, and it's been a pretty drastic change. But so I think that the biggest one we've seen, we had different revolutions at Gameloft, but in the last 12 years I've been there, and it's because of these revolutions that I'm still here. It's because this business is moving very fast, and it's new every 2 years. So we had the Java revolution in 22, the first launch of real mobile gaming. Then we have the iPhone revolution, the arrival of real, I would say, rich gaming experience. Engage was a first step, but didn't make it as good as we expected. So iPhone took it correctly and made the second revolution. And it's true that freemium and casual was the third big revolution for us.
Right. So yeah, I remember like Nova, I think it was one of the first freemium free-to-play like FPS.
No, so Nova is one of our last premium IPs. We still consider that there are some game genres for I would say more specialized audience that still appeal. So we launched recently Nova 3, and it's still on. It's what we call internally premium. So it's premium with in-app purchase, but it's still. And so we have around 1/3 of our lineup, which is still premium, because there is. I would say, if you simplify, I would say that the smartphones are challenging. Smartphones and tablets are challenging both PS, PSP, and bringing a new audience to the gaming market. Many people that would never play now play on their smartphone, so it's very good news. So to address, I would say, and it's a very to simplify, to address the PSP audience, you need premium titles. People and Nova is doing really good, so it shows that there is still a market for AAA titles, high quality at $6.99, with high production values. So we keep this type of products, but it's true that if it's only a part of the market, if you look at the charts, the free-to-play casual type of games are now a big majority, represent a big majority of the market.
Got it. So I'm going to ask you a little bit of harder questions. So who do you consider to be your competitors? Is it like big guys like Zynga, Gree, or DNA, or is it the little guys, might be sitting here in the audience that have little overhead?
No, what we look at our big competitors. So yeah, Zynga, EA. For GRI and Mobage, it's a little bit, and DNA, it's a bit different because these guys they are publishers and they are platform owners, so they are also our partners. We work with GRI, and we'll be launching with them. We announced a partnership a couple of months ago, and we will be launching our first title in the coming weeks. So it's a bit different, I would say. Zynga, EA, Glue. And some smaller guys, Pocket Gems, the regular guys. And in China it can be, then there are different, it's come to us in Korea, our biggest competitor. In China it would be more Tencent or, and in Japan, the regular Japanese Konami and Square Enix, all the big guys that are doing really great on Mobage and Wii platform.
Right. Okay.
But competition is good. What I think is that and even the small, small and big competition. I think it's a market that's growing really fast. So it's good to have competition because it brings innovation. If we didn't have competition, we would not reinvent ourselves regularly to bring. I think it's for the benefit of the consumers, and that's what's driving. The growth of the market is that this competition brings innovation, and that's why people now are happy to see new games coming to their platforms. If you look at the level of quality or the experience that you have today on a free-to-play model in 2 years, I think it's pretty impressive, and it's because of this competition that you can have. For the end user, I think it's a good deal. You play Ice Age for free. Talking Ice Age, I'm doing my pitch, but it's a free-to-play game. Honestly, it's a very good experience for free, and you can really enjoy without paying. So I think at the end for the consumer, it's a good evolution.
It's a good thing. So there has been a massive shift to freemium in the last past 18 months or so. And a lot of your competitors, we just mentioned, for example, Agri, they just purchased Funzio. So why hasn't Gameloft, purchasing this, getting this kind of expertise?
To be very transparent, we have a very strong in-house culture. So we are 6,000 people. So we do everything internally, from analytics to games development to whatever. So, so it's the mindset of the company. Second point is that the challenge of so we had to learn because it was such a dramatic transition that we had to make it fast and make it big. So it had to be a big internal transition. If you acquire a small company, it's hard maybe then to mix and to make them integrate and infuse the whole company as they are new. And second, there is also a pretty simple financial issue, is that when it's hot, like freemium is hot, the valuation are really, really high.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Gameloft is listed in Europe, not in the US. So we don't have always the same type of ratio that US listed or Japanese listed company can have. So we don't have the same money that we could spend there. So purchasing power. Yeah, and I think and that's not the major reason. Really, the major reason is that it had to be a major shift. So we had to make it big, and it's not by acquiring a 50-people studio that would have the knowledge and the expertise that we would have. It was a dramatic change that we had to run, and we had to. When you do things yourself, I would say you have no choice. You have to understand. You have we had to. Half of our producers changed in the last 18 months, and we had to rechange the whole organization. And when you do it, I would say you learn and you do it well. it's a
You're doing it from within.
yeah,
then,
and if you do it on the side, you can say, okay, now I'm good at freemium because I purchased this developer who is very good at free-to-play. But yeah, I think it would take then more time to change the whole company.
Right. So, well, next question I would like to ask you is that, okay, so before like you guys were publishing these kind of like premium titles that you charge for money, and like with this shift to freemium, like, so are you right now for the for Gameloft, are you focusing on a new monetization model? You know, how is your revenue model is going to be, and the mixture of that?
So I would say we have two types of games. We have the free-to-play and the premium. So we keep, as I said, a premium lineup for some type of games. Then on the free-to-play, it's a mixture of in-app purchase and advertising. We are very much into in-app purchase because we think that long-term, I would say, what we need to learn is I would say our goal is to make people happy to pay. So it has to be so, the experience has to be so good, and you have to, that people would be willing to pay. What we think is that advertising can be, it can be a quick way to monetize, but not a long-term strategy. What I mean is that, of course, it's a good complement. So I think it's around 10% of our revenues today. But we think that at the deep core of the game, the experience has to, we need to learn how to do the best free-to-play experience so that it's a pleasure to pay for in-app, and yeah, advertising is good, but it can be an easy shortcut.
Easy shortcut. Okay. So, like, speaking of you know, monetization through advertising, like you tried it with one of the games, and it didn't go well. That is Heroes of Sparta. And can you tell us about, you know, what you learned from that experience?
Yeah. So what we learned is that you have to do things well, and that's what we try to do at Gameloft for 10 years. And what we see is that even more when you are in a free-to-play, and I think, you know, when we were doing Java and Brew, we were distributing through carriers, so we didn't have any consumer interfaces. We have now 5 million Facebook fans, so when we do something bad, we hear it big time from our fans, and that's what we did with Hero Sparta. The goal was, I would say, the idea was good, I think. We said, okay, we need to drive one of our, and we'll talk about it, but one of the challenge in the free-to-play is acquisition, how to acquire high-quality installs. And we said, okay, we have we have around 85 iOS games. So we said, okay, we have some games that are very good, that nobody plays anymore because they are, they cannot be seen in the 500,000 apps on the App Store. So we took Hero Sparta and we said, okay, we switch from $4.99 to free, and we'll integrate banners. And that was at the end of last year. And at that time we had many other topics, the first launches of our free-to-play casual titles. So we didn't check well how we implemented that, and that was poorly implemented. So we put it live as an update, so the guys who had purchased the game at $4.99 could now play the game for free, except that they had banners all over the screen, and the game was barely playable. So we had to, in 2 hours, we switched back to the old version, and we apologized to our fans. So it was a good learning, is that even if it's free, it has to be good. That's a basic point. It's not because it's free that... what we consider at Gameloft is that people, and even more casual gamers, you invest time and money and energy when you play. So, and even more, I would say, when you are not a gamer. If you are a professional, I would say, a professional gamer, you can understand that there are bugs, lags. You know, you say, oh, you know, it's because they did this special effect that here there's a bit of lag, or the maybe the server is down, so no problem, I'll reboot. Or the experts can forgive. Right. The casual, they never forgive.
Yeah, the users, they voice their concerns.
Yeah, and you know, you can never force somebody to play, because when you play, you are concentrated. When you watch TV, you are passive. When you play, you are active. So it has to be good. Right. And it shows that even if it's free, That's one of our big learning. Even if it's free, it has to be good. So you have advertising has to be handled with care because you cannot damage or deteriorate the experience.
User experience. So that was quite a big learning for you guys. But then, because you had a user backlash because the ads were not implemented well. It the user experience was damaged. But then you came back and then you started monetizing the other title that you have, Uno, with advertising. So what gave you this what switched you over?
So we need to, it's not because we had a failure that we should not try again, so we decided to try again and to make it better. And the second reason is that, and that Uno is we had this free with advertising version on Google Play. It's because, and we decided to do that because at that time the monetization rate on Google Play was not, I would say, you could make good revenues with, I would say, maybe more revenues with advertising for some very big brands, very big volume titles, maybe more than with premium type of monetization. So that's what we decided to do, and we are very happy with the results of this version.
So do you see ads as cheapening the user experience, or do you see it as a necessity to survive?
Neither of them. It's not cheapening as long as it's well done. So you have to make it well integrated and not too aggressive. It's not the way to survive because you've never seen any content. Would it be press? Would it be music? Nobody's surviving only with advertising. So at the end, the consumer has to pay, even if it's 1% or 2% of the consumers that pay. But there has to be. I'm not sure that you can live only with advertising. I mean, we don't believe in that. We think you have to have people, but it's a very good complement. It's very important in terms of acquisition. So advertising is a key part of the ecosystem, but it has to. You should never forget that at the end, and that's the user experience is the most important. For acquisition, for word to mouth, we are in a very open world, and a very good game can spread because you show your game to your friends and to your family on your smartphone, on your tablets, and so the user experience remains the most important, but advertising is part of the story.
Right. So you're just mixing in-app purchase and advertising; they complement each other.
Yeah.
Got it. So, like you mentioned about advertising and driving downloads. So let's talk a little bit about that. We don't have much time, but then I really want. I think a lot of people here in the audience want to know. How do you get user acquisition? Driving downloads, is it very important? And then what about chart positions? In app stores. How do you see those?
The key challenge in free-to-play is acquisition. There is no doubt about this. When you have 2-3% of people paying versus 100% in the premium model, that means you need to increase the install rate at least 30%. I would say, if I do basic math, the LTV is not the same, but so it's a key challenge. Everybody has understood it, so there is a hype around acquisition, I would say, cost, and there is a lot of demand because there is a lot of players in the industry. So I always say to my guys that you are in the best business in the world. Advertising is today the best business. So it's you need to find the right channels for the right games, for the right models. I think everybody's still figuring out. It's a pretty new industry, but we are investing. We're investing in acquisition. I would say the different tools that we have. First is quality of the experience. Once again, is that you need to have a good game. If your game is bad, of course you can acquire, but the LTV will not be good. It will be a short term. So, and guess you raise 10 million and you want to sell yourself in the next 3 months, you should not go this route. End user experience is key. So, doing a good game. At Gameloft, we have an asset which is first the 150 million installs that we have where we can do cross promotion. So we have 150 million people apps installed on iOS device. I'm talking about iOS devices only. So we do a lot of cross promotion. We have a huge inventory and that we leverage. Then we have these 5 million Facebook fans, and that helps a lot also, because to kick off a game, that's an important point. We have a network of 20 to 25 marketing offices worldwide that take care of this Facebook community, fan community, and also take care of, I would say, the journalists and the ecosystem. So we work with all the blogs and to present our game and everything. We have a lot of actions and there on the ground. And then, of course, third point is what we call paid acquisition. So advertising networks, notification apps like free app a day and things like this.
Yeah. So since we don't have much time left, one last question from you. Like, what advice would you give to the audience? How can they be successful in mobile gaming? Like 3 short points.
Yeah. So I'm a bit boring on this subject, but develop a high-quality title. I think that's the biggest chance to get published, to get purchased, to get. I mean, you know, Zynga recently. I don't remember the latest acquisition they did after.
MGPop.
No, after MGPop. No, after MGPop, they had a smaller one, but they said it was just for talent. So. Even if you are not live yet, but if you have a high-quality product, I think that's your best asset.
So quality number one.
Quality number one, and of course, innovation. If you can have something that's not on the market, if you are coming with a city management game, yeah, I would tell you it's challenging because you have big guys installed. The challenge with free-to-play is that before you take over an existing player, it takes time. If you take the city building, for example, between when you have a city building that has been there with, I don't know how many installs they have today on iOS, but maybe 20 million. And with updates, there's a dynamic in the game. And when you are a new player and you come in and you say, okay, hello, I'm a new city game publisher, it will take a lot of time and investment to take over. So there are big guys now in the business. So you know so you have to either be very creative, very unique, and that's draw something. I think it was pretty innovative and very nicely done. I think it's.
User experience.
The user experience is a dream on draw something. I mean, there is no flow; it's perfect. Yeah. And so either innovative and very high quality.
Yeah. Anything else that you would like to add to that?
No, I think.
That's it? Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Gonzague.
Okay, Gonzague is definitely a wealth of information. I think 30 minutes is definitely not enough. I wish we had 5 hours to pick his brain, but let's have 2 quick questions for Gonzague. Anybody? Mm-hmm. If you have a question, please come to the mic in the middle. Okay, nobody's going to ask. I'm going to ask a question. How do you decide your resources between the different mobile platforms? You know, with Android, iOS, you know, iPad. What kind of metrics? What kind of intelligence do you use? What kind of guiding principles do you use?
So, as any publisher, the major metric is the potential revenue of each platform. But at Gameloft, we are pretty, I would say, brutal. So we pretty much go our every platform as long as it makes sense. So I would say for Android and iOS, today there is no question. So we develop all our games on iOS and Android. On Android, it's a big bet that we made last year because I think it was early to consider that it would be at the same level of monetization as iOS, and I think it's still there is still some room to grow there on Android, and even more given the fragmentation that's just exploding. And today on Android, we are supporting 400 different smartphones. So when you do an update every month on a free-to-play titles on 400 smartphones, I can tell you that the amount of people and work and testing that you have to do is huge. So it's a real challenge. Then you have, I would say, new platforms, emerging platforms. So it can be RIM, it can be Microsoft, it can be. So on this, it's more, I would say, at the beginning, it's more a business opportunity, and then we'll see in the long term how they play.
Good. Thank you very much. Oh, question, yeah.
How do you think about tablets differently from smartphones?
So we haven't yet created any different game for tablet than for smartphones. So we optimize the experience for each device, but today it's true that all our games are both for smartphones and tablets. What we see is that the audience starts to be a little bit different. So if you look at the charts, they are a bit different. The tablet is a very, I would say, it's a family device. With the new iPad, what we see is that it's, with the quality of the experience, it's re-attracting innovative gamers because the quality of the experience now is at such a level that I think some gamers now consider it as a real gaming device, which they were not considering before. So it's too early. It's something that we haven't done yet. We do universal builds. We made this choice, I think, 18 months ago, so that consumers could play on whatever devices. We are integrating cloud saving on all our games so that you can play on whatever devices and carry on your game. But it's true that at one point it might be interesting to consider. And if you look, there are some board games, for example, that play very well on the iPad but don't play well on the iPhone. So there might be a time where you can create games separately for one format.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Gonza. Thank you, Lichi.
All right.